Yes, good morning. I'm Giovanna Tosetto. I am a tourist guide of Friuli Venezia Giulia, and I'm pleased today to welcome you here in this amazing and beautiful city, which is Cividale del Friuli. Here we are standing in the most important square of this small town, which is very close to Udine, more or less 17 kilometers from Udine. That means 15 minutes drive. And this is I doubt you will guess the name of this square, because this is the Women's Square, yes, but the official name of this square is Piazza Paolo Diacono. And it's called like this because this was the market square. And as you can see here in the square, there is the fountain in the middle of the square, and there are very important historical buildings all around. But why do we start our tour today from this square? Because this is the beginning of the history of this town. And I'm showing you the place where this history started. Actually, honestly speaking, Cividale was founded by the Romans in the 1st century BC. But what made Cividale very important is the time when the Lombards arrived. Who were the Lombards? The Lombards, they were barbarians. They were coming from Northern Europe, and they came into Cividale at the beginning, the middle of the 6th century AD. And they settled down in this town for almost 2 centuries. Here in this square, as you can see here where I'm standing, there was, during some works, there was a breathtaking discovery. Because the people working here, they found some burial sites dating back to the Lombard times. And when was it that they discovered this place? It was 1874. But I have to go back to the history of Cividale to let you know what happened during these centuries. I said that Cividale del Friuli was founded by the Romans, by Julius Caesar in the 1st century BC, because this place, this location was very, very useful for the Romans, because it was along the riverside, and this river was flowing into the most important Roman side during those times. I'm talking about Aquileia, another very nice, amazing place to be visited here in Friuli Venezia Giulia. After the Romans, the Lombards came, as I told you, already 568 AD, and they settled down for 2 centuries. Thanks to these Lombards, Cividale became a UNESCO site in 2011. But it's not just Cividale belonging to this UNESCO site, it's an Italian UNESCO site. And to this side, which is called Italia Langobardorum, which is the Italy of the Lombards, as you want to say, belong other very important Italian cities in the northern part of Italy and in the southern part of Italy. Then after the Lombards we had the Franks of German origin, and then Venice, our neighboring city. And Venice was here for many centuries, then France, and then Austria. And Austria was the first sponsor, we should use this modern word, who paid for the archaeological works and for, the discovery of these burial sites. Then afterwards, 1874, Italy was the administrator of this city, and the discoveries went on, and the history of this small town appeared. And now what we are going to show you today, what I'm going to show you today, belongs to the Lombard time and to the history of this small town. And now we leave the square at my back, and this square is not just the historical square of Cividale del Friuli, but it's even the taste square, as I call this square, because you can rest during your walk and enjoy a very nice ice cream or drink a glass of white wine, because Cividale is in the middle of this white wine production area. And now I will show you the hidden part of this small town. And I'm heading along the Jewish lane. Yes, this is the oldest quarter of Cividale del Friuli, and the name of this tiny street is Stretta della Giudaica. I want to show you this place? Because we are entering now the history of Cividale, where during the Middle Ages people were living. There were the ancient walls, and there is still something belonging to this time which can be seen when you come to visit this town. You know, Cividale is a slow destination. You can walk along these tiny streets, as you can see, and these streets are the mirror of the tradition and the local rural architecture and design. For the streets, the pebbles have been used, as you will see in a while. On your left-hand hand or in your right-hand hand, you will see stones and walls, and you will jump into the history of Cividale del Friuli. And in this quarter, in this part of the town, we can see even what it was used to be here during the past, because there are the old black and white pictures showing us the shops that were here. There was the tailor, there was the barber, and there were the blacksmith, there was the fruit seller, and as you can see, maybe you speak a bit of Italian, maybe not, but you guess that this is not Italian, of course, because here we speak another language. We speak Italian, of course, which is our mother tongue, but in Cividale we speak a kind of old Romanic language, which is not as musical as Italian, and this is the name translated in this language. So Cividale keeps on being a discovery, step by step. So follow me, because now we are heading to the Christian Museum. And now we will walk a bit further on. As I told you before, I will show you first of all the Christian Museum, but mind your step, because you have to watch on your left, on your right hand side, and in this tiny street you will see amazing facades of these buildings. You will see pebbles, stones, and these old ancient atmosphere dating back to the Middle Ages. These buildings, you see, they've been restored after the strong earthquake that we had in this area in 1976. Yes, the earthquake was very, very strong. It was 6.4 Richter, and luckily Cividale was a bit damaged and all the buildings have been restored, but still keeping their old fashion and atmosphere and architecture, as you can see, and with flowers, with everything is really very well maintained. In a few seconds we will just have a short stop in front of the oldest house of Cividale del Friuli, which is the so-called casetta medievale. And this casetta medievale, casetta in English is this small house, remind us of the architecture which was used during the 12th and 13th century. Here we are. On your right hand side you will see this casa medievale. It's written here in Italian. And how was the use of this small house? People were living here on the low floor, and they were spending their daytime. On the upper floor there were the bedrooms. There were very tiny bedrooms, of course, and in the upper floor there was the kitchen, and there was, of course, the place where they stored cereals, because if a fire would have come, of course they should have been defending and protecting the house. This house dates back to the 12th century, and here we are. This is the art of the history of Cividale we are heading to. now we are more or less at the entrance of the Christian Museum, but I want you to experience a different and unique visit of Cividale del Friuli. And that's the reason why I asked the person in charge of the Christian Museum to open the door of this amazing, breathtaking place. Ciao Elisa, ci sei? Bene, bene, grazie Elisa. Ci apri allora? She's going to open the door and you have to open your eyes because you will see something which is really breathtaking. Incontriamo Elisa, la padrona di casa di questo museo. Now we are going to talk to Elisa. She's the landlady of this beautiful museum, and I think she's the best person to introduce this tour of the museum. And I'm going to ask her in Italian what, according to her opinion, is very worthwhile to see inside the museum. Elisa, che cosa ci suggerisci di guardare all'interno del museo?
In questo museo abbiamo dei pezzi unici in tutta Europa. Il più importante naturalmente è l'altare di Radkis.
In this museum we have unique masterpieces. The most important one is the altare di Radkis, the Radkis altar.
Una delle rare espressioni artistiche longobarde scritte su pietra.
This is one of the unique masterpieces with some inscriptions written on the stone.
Dopo, dietro l'altare di Radkis, abbiamo il famoso battistero di Callisto.
In the same room, behind the altare di Radkis, you can see the baptistry of Callistus.
E finita l'arte longobarda, continuiamo con la tipica arte cristiana.
And of course there is not just Lombard arts, but there is the Christian arts as well inside the museum.
Perché in questo museo ci sono conservati praticamente 1500 anni di arte cristiana in Friuli.
In this museum, Elisa is telling us that there are 1500 years of Christianity and Christian arts.
E abbiamo anche delle espressioni artistiche particolari. Abbiamo uno spadone.
And inside there is something special in this exhibition, which is a big sword, spadone in Italian,
che viene usato come espressione del potere temporale del patriarca.
This is the expression of the political power of the patriarch.
E viene usato insieme all'Evangelistario durante una bellissima messa realizzata il 6 gennaio, ogni 6 gennaio del 1366.
And together with this silver cover of the, holy evangels, it's used during an important event which is taking place on the 6th of January here in Cividale, la Messa dello Spadone, the Sword Mass.
Nel mezzo della sala c'è una grandissima cattedra in marmo che è la famosa cattedra patriarcale.
In the middle of the same room there is a huge cathedra, which is a big armchair made of stone, which was used by the patriarchs.
Dal 1077 al 1419.
Starting from 1077 until the 1500.
Proseguendo con la visita si può vedere il busto reliquiario del patrono della città di San Donato, che è San Donato.
Then just close to this cathedral there is another silver piece which is containing the relics of the saint, the holy saint of Cividale, San Donato.
Un'opera di oreficeria fantastica.
Elisa is saying this is a fantastic and amazing, unique, uncomparable masterpiece, of course.
Proseguendo lungo le scale arriviamo alla sala relativa alle opere in tela e siamo accolti da una bellissima opera realizzata da Antonio De Sacchis, detto il Pordenone, che è il famoso Noli me tangere.
Reaching the first floor, there is a very nice staircase, and of course there is an elevator as well for people who are not able to walk. We will be welcomed, as Elisa was telling us, by one of the most famous paintings which can be seen inside this museum. This is the Noli me tangere of one local artist who was living during the 1500s, Giorgio De Sacchis, the so-called Pordenone, because his he came to this world. He was born in Pordenone, and that's the reason why his name is like this, right, Elisa?
Right. È un'opera rivoluzionaria per la posizione, per la forma e per questo fantastico vento che avvolge il Cristo e la Maddalena.
This painting is a kind of revolution thanks to the colors, the shape of the persons who the sack is painted, and of course the wind. You're just looking at the wind inside this painting. The wind, il vento.
Secondo Sgarbi sì.
Yes, according to one of the most important Italian historians of arts, Vittorio Sgarbi, is like this. You can see the wind.
Ok, perfetto, brava. The last but not least
Perfetto.
è il velo della Benvenuta Boiani.
You have to take some more 5 minutes, Elisa is telling us, because last and not least, we say the same in Italian as well. You have to reach the 3rd floor to admire and to be, welcomed once again by the veil of these noble lady, Boiani.
È un velo che risale al XIII-XIV secolo, è un tessuto di lino ricamato tono su tono.
This is a veil, handmade, made of linen, and it has been hand-sticked, and it's dating back to the 1300s.
È lungo ben 5 metri
It's 5 meters long,
e racconta il percorso della vita di Cristo.
and this is the history of Jesus' life, just on a piece of tissue. Just imagine. So I think that a visit of this Christian museum is worthwhile. And I'm so happy that we can do together this tour today with Elisa Morandini, who's here with us. We are now going to the monastery and to the Lombard Chapel. As we have seen at the Christian Museum, it's very important, in Italy especially, to have very good relations. And when I'm guiding, in this time I'm guiding you here through the city, I am so pleased to introduce you the memory of this monastery, Antonella. Ciao Antonella!
Buongiorno, welcome.
She's going to open a door which is usually closed to let you see a hidden treasure of the monastery. Antonella, so che adesso qui nell'ambito del monastero c'è uno splendido restauro in corso del coro ligneo.
Esatto.
Che cosa ci puoi dire in poche parole di questo splendido capolavoro?
È un capolavoro davvero. È del 1370, voluto dalla badessa Margherita della Torre per abbellire il tempietto longobardo. È un insieme di varie essenze, di vari legni. Ogni legno ha un suo perché, da quello che serve a scaldare le sedute a quello che serve ad abbellire, quindi a modellare questi splendidi intagli. È un coro pieno di draghi.
It's very difficult to translate the passion Antonella is giving in telling us, explaining to us how this wooden core is looking. And it dates back to the 1400. It was a present from one of the most important nuns who were here in this monastery, Margherita Formentini, and she was the one who has chosen the kind of woods used and so on and so forth. But the translation, I think, is useless when you have heard the tone of voice of Antonella, who's giving a bit of her heart in explaining to us one of the most interesting parts of this monastery. And I would like to thank Antonella on your side for this beautiful introduction. Grazie Antonella, grazie mille, grazie mille.
Grazie a voi. Thank you.
And now I show you the entrance of the monastery of Santa Maria in Valle. We've seen the Christian Museum with the Lombard arts, and now we are exploring these it's not small, a big monastery, but this area we are walking through was the place where the nuns who were living in the monastery were growing the grapes. And now this is open to the public, and it's one of the entrances to the Lombard Chapel, the most important Lombard masterpiece you will be able to see here in Cividale del Friuli. So now I enter the Lombard Chapel. This is the most important Lombard expression of arts you can see here in Cividale del Friuli, and not just in Cividale del Friuli. Maybe this is one of the most important all over Italy. Italy is the cradle of arts, and this is an example of this expression, of course. The Lombards became Christian during the 7th century AD, and they started to build chapels, and this one is the example of these arts. As you can see, we have the arch with the grapes made of stucco dating back to the 700 to the 800 AD, and the frescoes and even the statues over there. But unfortunately, the chapel has been affected by two strong earthquakes, one in 1222 and the second one in 1348. And after these two earthquakes, the roofs have been damaged and destroyed, and then the new frescoes have been painted here. But just to give you an idea, when you will come in Cividale and visit the city and the chapel, you will see that there are still some small pieces of mosaic stones, because the ceiling was completely decorated with mosaic stones. So a visit of the Lombard Chapel is a must when coming to Cividale. Showing you the Ipogeo Celtico. This is a kind of a cave, actually. The archaeologists, they don't know so much about the use of this place. It's a kind of mystery. It dates back to the 3rd, maybe 4th century BC, and the peculiarity of this place are these masks, like this one, for example. Maybe this was a burial site, because something similar has been found in southern France, but for sure it is the kind of stone, this kind of sandstone, during the centuries that helped to create these caves. And then it was used by the Jewish community, and maybe during the French administration, during the time of Napoleon, as a prison. But I don't know exactly, and nobody knows exactly the use of this place. And I leave the description with the question marks. The only thing to do is to come and see it. I just walked over the bridge, the Devil's Bridge. Yes, this is the bridge connecting the two sides of the river Natisone, which is flowing through Cividale del Friuli. The name of this bridge is connected to a legend, of course, because this bridge was never ended. So the Cividalesi, the people living here, asked the devil if he could have helped them to finish the bridge. He agreed about this, but he wanted to have the soul of the first persons walking over the bridge. And the Cividalesi, they sent whether a cat or a dog. But the story of this bridge is completely different, of course, because for sure there was a Roman bridge, I mean, at the time when Cividale del Friuli was founded, and then another bridge built in the 1400s. But the bridge was rebuilt in 1918, yes, because 1917 the Italian armies were defeated during World War I, very close to Cividale del Friuli, and in order to prevent the enemies to reach Cividale in a very short time, the Italian commanders, they destroyed the bridge, and this bridge was rebuilt just in 1918, shortly before the end of World War I. This is the story of the Devil's Bridge, and for sure when you are coming to Cividale you have to walk over this bridge. And now after the Devil's Bridge and such a long walk, I think you are feeling a bit hungry. And Cividale is not just art, monuments, history, but Cividale is even taste and food. As you can see here on your left-hand side, you have plenty of different bottles containing something special coming from this place, and something sweet and oil and so on and so forth. And to satisfy your, willingness to eat something special from this place, I thought to bring you inside one of the most famous pastry shops of Cividale. I'm already smelling the food, the cakes that they are cooking now for us. You know, Cividale is famous for this cake, which is gubana, and now I'm going to introduce you to the owner of this pastry shop, who's opening the door for us, for these special guests you are in this occasion. So don't go away, stay with us, because now it's the sweet time. And here you see there is the entrance of this very famous pastry shop, Catarossi. And I entered the door and I hope to meet the owner of this pastry shop. And now, as I told you before, this is the tasty and the sweet break you will experience here in Cividale with Berto. Berto is the owner of this pastry shop. We are inside the place where he has been working since 1958. He started on the 12th of January 1958 and is still working. And he wakes up every day at 2 o'clock in the morning. And here is making this gubana. The filling of this sweet of this cake, gubana is a Slavian word actually. It's done with different fruits. Inside the filling is made of raisins, nuts, hazelnuts, and of course what is not missing is grappa. So it's very sweet, and it's even more tasty than you can imagine. And the shape is like this. It's a round cake that you can experience when you will be here in Cividale. This is Piazza Duomo, and this is the biggest church of Cividale del Friuli, il Duomo in Italian, the cathedral. The building started in 1400 and then it was rebuilt in the 1500 and then once again restored during the 1700 when Cividale del Friuli was under the Venetian times. And this is the most important square of this city, where plenty of interesting noble palaces can be seen and where all the events are taking place. And now we reached a shop, but it's not a normal shop. This is something which is related to the handicrafts. And the owner of this shop and the artist is Margherita. She's standing just on my right hand side. And what she does She's inspired by the Lombard arts. Ciao Margherita.
Buongiorno.
Tu sei ispirata all'arte longobarda,
Sì.
giusto, per i tuoi gioielli? Da
Sì.
dove parti?
Parto dal disegno che il cliente mi richiede. Quindi
She's
parto
showing us a real Lombard cross.
cerco di riprodurre attraverso l'incisione nel gesso il modello che mi richiedono. Per
She's
passare
reproducing on this kind of chalk the design of the old patterns.
per poi passare al passaggio della cera, che è il secondo passaggio.
Then the second step is using the wax to reproduce the sample.
Alla fusione in metallo, che può essere oro o argento,
And then
dipende
there is
dalla
the
richiesta.
fusion, which can be done in silver and gold. This is a small shop with an old tradition very close to Piazza del Duomo in the city center of Cividale del Friuli.
Per poi passare alla parte finale dell'oggetto.
And then the final edition of these pieces of arts are crosses that you can see here, very simple ones, or jewels, rings, and other kind of jewels that everybody can wear. And here we are at the end of our walking tour, and Friuli Venezia Giulia, this nice region, is waiting for you with open arms. Bye bye, ciao, arrivederci.